everyone, and welcome to another Sims 4 speed build. Today I'm making a trendy vegetarian restaurant in Del Sol Valley because I've been really wanting to make some kind of community lot for this world, especially something to replace the Ward Park lot because we only have 11 lots in Del Sol Valley, and I think this space could definitely be used for something better than a park because it wasn't even a cool park. There wasn't really a whole lot of activities for your Sims to do there. There's just some, like, from what I remember, there's just some trees and flowers and benches and maybe a chess table or two. So I just wanted to create something that uses space better and was somewhere more interesting for your Sims to go. So yeah, I just thought it'd be really cool to create this more modern and upscale restaurant just to kind of fit into the whole thing that Starlight Boulevard is kind of like the trendy area where celebrities go to hang out. So this is the place where you could go and grab some lunch and maybe spot a celebrity. And I did call it Garden of Eatin because I wanted to give it some kind of punny name. And I remember that there was this pre-made vegetarian sandwich at the Sheetz gas station, which is this gas station along the East Coast that has a lot of made-to-order foods. So anyway, yeah, they had this pre-made one called Garden of Eatin, and it was a I don't know if I remember if I said it or not, but it was a vegetarian sandwich. So I just thought that'd be such a good name for this restaurant because it definitely sounds like something you would name a vegetarian restaurant, and it just sounds cooler than giving it some kind of more basic name. So yeah, I did name this restaurant after a gas station sandwich, but it is a really good gas station sandwich. Like, they actually have a lot of good food there. But anyway, right now I'm just trying to figure out the interior layout because I wanted to figure out where everything was gonna go before I started putting in the windows because, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I want to have huge floor-to-ceiling windows wherever I place the kitchen, although I did end up putting pretty big windows in there, but because I did use the medium floor height on the first level, but I stuck the smaller floor level tall windows in there so you could still stick a counter underneath of them, because that was why I didn't want to put floor-to-ceiling windows in there, because then you might end up blocking them with the counters when you go to put those in, or you have to limit where you put the counters to not block them, because blocking windows with counters is just a pet peeve of mine when it comes to building, so I really don't like to do that. So yeah, I just want to make sure I knew which space was which before I went in and put windows on the outside. I also didn't want windows in the bathroom either, and that's just how I tend to do things. So normally I'll build the basic structure of the build, and then I'll go and do the floor plan just so I can choose do my window placement based on that. So it kind of makes, the sizes of windows makes sense for the space, because I usually don't like having huge windows in bedrooms or bathrooms, although it does happen sometimes, but generally I don't like to do that. So there we go, now I'm just placing the windows in. And I also created that open area on the second floor with the chandelier from Spa Day in it, because I thought that would kind of add to the high-end elegance of the restaurant, and I do end up putting a really cool fountain feature underneath that later on, so I'm really excited to get to that. But here I was just trying to figure out what kind of signage I wanted to show that this was a restaurant, because we did get a bunch of really cool signs from Dine Out to put on restaurants. So yeah, those are always fun to go through and choose. And then now I'm just trying to figure out the color scheme. So I did want to give it an earthy color scheme to go with the whole it being a vegetarian restaurant thing. So originally I had this green paneling, and then I used this brick, actually this brick, which I wasn't certain, like, this is what I ended up sticking with, but I was definitely uncertain about it at some points, and I kind of went and tried changing it to other things, but in the end, this just kind of looked the best out of what I tried. And then, oh yeah, this area at the back here is just kind of like a trash can area outside the kitchen. I just thought that would be a nice realistic touch. And another thing I liked was that I used those L-shaped brackets. I don't know if brackets are what you would call it. They're just kind of L-shaped decorative elements. I just really like using those with modern builds because they just look so cool. So it kind of creates this neat awning-like look over the outdoor dining area, although they really don't provide any shade at all, but they just look really cool and make that side of the build look a bit more interesting. So I do like using those when I get a chance to. And then this area over on this side is another outdoor eating area. So there's a good bit of outdoor eating, and then the whole second floor is an eating area. I didn't end up putting any tables on the first floor, and I'll just talk more about that once I get to the interior. But here's just kind of second guessing my wallpaper choice there. But like I said, even though I tried a bunch of other stuff, I just kept going back to this one, and I found myself second guessing myself a lot with this build in general. And I'm not sure if it was because I was in kind of a builder's rut, or if it was just that or if it's just because modern is a style I tend to struggle with, because I think that may be part of it, because I personally like the look of more traditional builds more, and I feel like because of that, I tend to be a bit more critical of myself when making more modern things, because it's just not a style I like the look of as much, so it's a lot harder for me to make a modern build that I'm truly happy with. But I think in the end it came out pretty good, but it's just like it's still in the back of my mind. I feel like there's things I could have done to make it look better, but there's got to be some point where I just say it's done and move on with it. And I still am pretty happy with how it turned out. I did change some things as I went along, so as I went on, I became more confident in how things look and happier with how things looked. But there's definitely some points when I was working on this build where I was just really struggling with it, and I was kind of thinking about just not even putting it up. And yeah, here is when I changed the green that was on the outside or on the middle part there to something else a bit brighter, because the green that was there previously just looked dull compared to the surroundings, because there's a lot of bright greens here in Del Sol Valley, and it just really just brought out how dull that green I was using previously was. So this green just made a huge difference, made it look a whole lot better. And I did take some inspiration from a restaurant I built a few years ago when I was doing the exterior of this one, because I had a restaurant that I did in a Let's Build a Restaurant series that I did a couple years ago, that I did the same middle thing or not. I don't know how to explain exactly, but that whole 3 tile wide part that I put the sign on, that was something I did in that restaurant, and I liked how it looked, so I took some inspiration from that previous build I did and did that in this one as well. But I tried to do some other things on this build differently, and it's not exactly the same. Like, it doesn't have as many plants around. It's also smaller because it's made on a smaller lot size. So this is kind of like a miniature version of that restaurant in a way, but I think there's enough that's different about this one that it's hopefully not too similar, because that's another thing that I was worried about with this. But here I'm just finishing up putting in all the plants, so we just got some nice flowers around here, which definitely helped to make the outside of the restaurant look a lot better. And there are also those fountains on the front of it, so I just thought that would be kind of nice to tie in with the fountains that are to the left of this build, because those just look really pretty. And here I was using those roof decorations that we got with Get Famous, because we do have those ducked roof decorations, which are really cool, and I've been wanting to use them, but haven't really done anything since the pack came out that it would really make sense to use them in. And this lot does fit really well into Starlight Boulevard, because apart from Studio PvP, all the other lots in this area are modern, which is why I chose to build in this style, even though it's not really my strongest style, because I just want to make sure that it was something that looked like it fit right into this world. And I was also thinking that it could be cool to make a super high-end modern nightclub to replace Studio PvP, because the old Hollywood style it has is cool, but I feel like it would fit in a bit better to have this super modern high-end nightclub. So even though modern isn't my favorite style, as I said before, that is something that's on my list of things I want to do, because I do have some ideas for it that I think could turn out really cool. And I think it would also be good to try to build modern builds more often, because I do want to get better at building in this style, because it is fun to build outside of my comfort zone every once in a while. And I'm not sure if my issues with this build were solely because of the style, or as I said before, it might have been just kind of that I was in a builder's rut, because it was just one of those days where I was trying to build, I really wanted to finish it, but it just really wasn't coming together right. But at this point, I have the whole outside dining area mostly finished, so I'm just putting in some rugs here, just kind of like doormats going inside, and adding in some more plants, because I really wanted to have a lot of plant life around this build and on the inside of it as well, although I try not to go too over the top with it. Like, I thought about having ivy on the walls and the inside, but I decided to not do that and just keep things a little bit cleaner looking. But yeah, we're just putting some trash cans out here right now, so not really that exciting an area. And I was trying to, I was thinking about changing the pavement there, but I just kept it what it was originally, and was trying to figure out other things I could have possibly done to make it look better back there, but I just couldn't really come up with anything, because I thought, oh, maybe I can add some plants back there, but that doesn't really make a lot of sense to have plants in the middle of a trash area. It's a trash area, it's not anything you're trying to make look super pretty, so I just left it at having 4 trash cans. But we are onto the inside, and as I was kind of talking about before, it took me a while to figure out what direction I wanted to go in here because I was using these marble floors from Get Famous originally, but then later on I changed them because I felt like they looked too formal compared to the outside, because this was supposed to be nice, but it's just the outside is nice, but it's not really, like, it's still very modern. It's not like super fancy, so the marble floors I felt just didn't really go with that very well. But this is the fountain feature that I was talking about, so we just have that more modern square fountain in the middle there, and then in the corners I put some smaller fountains. And yeah, these things here, no, those are actually lights on, but then shortly I do stick some smaller jet fountains in here, which just looks really cool. Like when you look at it in gameplay, it just looks really neat. So once I got to see this build in gameplay, it looked a lot better to me than it does here. But yeah, this was the initial wallpapers I chose. So just got this brick and then this brown wallpaper, and I just really didn't like that because the wallpaper was pretty much the same color as the flooring. And I actually had a scrapped attempt at furnishing that I started with the floor and wallpaper like this, and I just could not make anything work because I was trying to use modern furniture and then it just didn't work with the marble, and then when I tried using like really formal, then that didn't work right because I feel like that didn't really, like, I was trying to use the tables with tablecloth on them, and I just felt like that didn't fit in with the build. So it just took me a while to get somewhere that I was happy with this build, but I am really glad that I stuck with it. And there was a bunch of failed attempts at furnishing that I did include in this video because, you know, there's no need to include me furnishing the whole downstairs and then scrapping the whole thing, but I did leave in a bunch of the uncertainty and changing around of things just to show a good bit of the process. So yeah, sorry if it's kind of annoying that a lot of this commentary is me just going like, I wasn't sure what I was doing, so I just switched out a bunch of things. But that is just the process I had with this build in general, and with these videos I like to share my process for the build and my thoughts behind it, and that was just the thoughts that I have this build in general, because it's not always like I go in and I build and everything comes out right the first time and all the ideas are coming to me and I know what I'm doing. You know, sometimes I go in and I build and I just struggle with it, and I'm very unsure of what I'm doing, and it takes me a while of trying different things and switching things out to get to a place I like with the build. So this is definitely one of those cases, and this build for whatever reason was a bit worse than others when it comes to that. And I think that's because I tried some different things with this build, and I also haven't built a restaurant in a while, and you know, I'm also more comfortable with building residential lots rather than community lots. So it's just a lot of different things that made this build a bit more challenging for me. But I'm just furnishing the bathrooms right now, and oh yeah, this is the point where I changed the flooring and wallpapers to how they are in the end. So this just looks a lot better. It, to me, looks a lot brighter because you do have the white brick to kind of break up all the browns over there before, because it was just pretty much all brown before, and that was making it really hard to furnish. And here I'm moving on to the upper floor because I just could not figure out what to do with the lower floor, and I just had so many scrapped attempts at furnishing that I just decided, let me just go up to the upper floor, furnish that, and then come back and figure that out, because maybe at that point it'll be a bit easier for me. So here I'm working on the bar. So we just got all those shelves behind it, which look really nice. Like, I kept the furnishing pretty simple here and one with a more industrial style. So in the end, the styling of the interior is, I'd say, a mix of modern, industrial, and elegant. And it also took me a while to kind of figure out that balance too. But the main reason I was having trouble with furnishing the lower level at first was that I couldn't really figure out what to do with the space, because originally I was going to put tables and chairs down there, but then when I started doing that, it just felt kind of weird to have that as a dining space, because you've got the main entrance into the restaurant and then you have two doors going to the outdoor area. So it's just a lot of doors going off of there. So I see that as more so being an area that people would just be walking through. But then once I kind of came to that conclusion, I wasn't really sure what to do with the space, because I didn't want to just have potted plants and nothing else there. So in the end, I put some of the dining booths down there as sort of like a waiting area. So that worked pretty well. And I think it was a good idea to just stop furnishing the lower level and move on when I was getting stuck, because I think that really helped, because sometimes when you're getting really stuck on something, it can just help to take a break, move on, and then come back to it with a fresher mind. But we are well into furnishing this area up here, and I was at first going to give it a bit more of an eclectic element, like with using these rugs, but I ended up getting rid of them because they just looked kind of odd. And then, I had this idea here where I was like, okay, maybe I'll use a different rug underneath each of these tables. So it's kind of like they went to a thrift store and bought all of these older rugs and used them, but then that looked too busy. So then I started using duplicates, and then that looked kind of odd because then it's like they just bought two of the, it kind of ruined that whole thing I was sort of going for, that it's supposed to be eclectic, like they got one of a kind secondhand items, because that kind of goes out the window when you have duplicates of something. And plus I also realized that that was adding too many things to the style of the restaurant, because we've got modern, industrial, and I wanted to have somewhat of an elegant high-end feel, and then just throwing eclectic and just that eclectic secondhand item kind of a style into it, that just kind of added too much to it and overcomplicated it, and just made it so it felt like there wasn't really a whole lot of a direction with the decoration. So I took that on, and then I just kind of continued that whole eclectic thing here, just stuck all of these different paintings on the walls. But that's another thing I got rid of later on, because just kind of went with that whole thing I was just talking about, where it was too many different things going on. So at the end I did simplify the wall decorations, and that just helped with this build so much. But back here we've just got this booth seating. I was gonna have a third bathroom there because I thought that space was kind of odd at first, so then I was like, I don't know, let's just stick a third bathroom here. But then I realized that's really unnecessary because we got like 6 toilets downstairs. So I realized that that would make a really nice cozy booth eating area. And then I also used those industrial lanterns from Get to Work and sized them down, and they just really created that nice romantic soft restaurant lighting in here. And I did intersect a few of those saucer lights with them, but I took them out later on because I realized it just looked better with that dimmer lighting, just to kind of go with, like I said, that just romantic date night kind of a vibe, because when you brighten things up, it just loses that romantic feel to it. So yeah, I definitely like the dimmer lighting a bit more, and here I'm just continuing that eclectic wall decoration I was going for, because I did have a cafe in that little Oxford Street build I uploaded a few weeks ago, and in that I did that whole kind, I did that same kind of thing. So I thought, maybe since that looked good in that build, it'll look good in this one, but it just really did not, and it just made things too busy. Yeah, so here's when I went back downstairs and added in that waiting booth seating, and then I tried using that same rug down here once again, but it just still really didn't fit in, so I ended up replacing that with those rugs that I used upstairs, and that really made that whole area look a lot better. And I just thought the waiting area was a good idea, because I see this as being the kind of restaurant where you're gonna have a line of people waiting to come in, so you're definitely gonna need an area for people to sit. I mean, realistically in the game that doesn't matter, but I feel like if this was a real restaurant, it would be somewhere where a bunch of people would be waiting, would want somewhere to sit. And then back upstairs, I got rid of a couple of those wall decorations and replaced them with this wall light, which is really pretty, and I thought it fit in with the restaurant really well, because it kind of goes with the industrial vibe of some of the things that are upstairs, and then it also goes with the more elegant feel that spa day chandelier brought in, because I was just kind of worrying that was looking out of place. So yeah, once I changed those rugs up there to be the black color and then added those wall lights in, it just started to come together a bit more. But we are onto the kitchen now, and I really like how the kitchen came out. I actually had a pretty easy time furnishing it. Like, thankfully, everything in this area came to me pretty easily. So that was a relief after how the rest of the furnishing of this build went. And I did try to do some creative things with this, like I wanted to add this wine rack in here, so we got that in the fridge, and then I crammed in this shelf with a bunch of stuff on it, and then I just used some of these wall cabinets to frame it, although I did change to these ones because those industrial ones didn't look quite right with it, but yeah, I really liked how that turned out. And then apart from that, I just added a bunch of shelving around the kitchen and added all of these knickknacks to it. So I had a lot of fun adding those details to the kitchen, and this was probably my favorite part of the restaurant to furnish, just because of how easily it came to me. And I think that's also because at this point, I had finally pretty much figured out the direction I wanted to go in with everything, so I was feeling a lot better about it. So we just got some of these decorations from Cool Kitchen Stuff. I always like to take that cutting board and stick it on the wall above the counter to make it look like it's propped up against the wall. Like, I don't, any of you who have been following my builds for a while might have noticed that that's pretty much a thing I do in every one of my kitchens. But now we're on placing the knickknacks. So we just got all of these peppers that came with dine out, and then we've got these olives in a jar. And I do wish that there was more ingredients and jars type decorations, just to add some more variety. But I did find these lemons, so I was glad I found those because, those helped add more variety. And then I also went into the debug catalog and added some bowls and cups and stuff throughout the kitchen. But unfortunately, those didn't really stay because when I was playtesting the build, I noticed that all of the cups disappeared, like the coffee cups there disappeared, those glasses disappeared. Those bowls that I just put in did stay, and so did the mixing bowls, but those wine glasses or nectar glasses that I had above there did disappear, unfortunately. And oh yeah, I thought I'd already done this, but yeah, after that I went and changed those rugs to black, which may be a lot of black, but I just felt like it looked better than those beige rugs that I had in there before. But we are almost done with the building part of the video. Oh wait, first I did want to say that when I did delete all those paintings, I ended up keeping in some movie posters. Yeah, so here's where I'm doing that. So I still kept these vintage movie posters in just to kind of go with the whole Del Sol Valley being the place where movies are made. So I just thought that was a nice touch for that. But anyway, we are at the end of the building part of the video. So as usual, there will be a link to download this in the description. There will also be stuff in there how to find it in-game. And that's going to be all for me. So I hope you enjoyed the rest of the video.